Good morning, everybody. My name's Jeremy Jaley, and I'm Business Development Lead here at Smart Impact, coming to you from a bright, sunny, blue-skied morning in West Sussex. It's fantastic to see so many of you here with us this morning, and I know that this is a topic that is vitally important to membership organisations. Just in terms of hosts this morning, there's going to be three of us. We're delighted to be joined by Alan Reid, who is a independent consultant to non-profit organisations and membership organisations. Myself and Chris, who is a Dynamics 365 consultant here at Smart Impact. In terms of webinar etiquette, we're going to be recording the session this morning, so please don't feel that you have to sit dutifully taking notes the whole way through. I know some people like doing that, but if you prefer not to, you can sit back, relax, and just enjoy the show, as it were. If you have any questions as we are going, please use the Q&A or the chat functionality in Teams, and what we'll try and do is if we can, we'll answer the questions in line, but if we think that it requires a little bit more discussion, we'll wait to the end of the webinar, and at the end of the webinar we are going to be having a bit of a Q&A session. I think the only other thing just to warn you is that we are going to be asking for you to participate in a couple of polls during the webinar, so Chris will do the heavy lifting in the background on that. The poll should appear on the screen. If you could just answer the question, that would be fantastic. So look, in terms of today's agenda, this is going to be a fairly practical session, and we're obviously keeping a narrow focus on membership onboarding processes and how professional membership organisations can take advantage of what really is a once in a member lifetime opportunity to engage with new members when they join your organisations, and how to get them engaged and excited about what you do from the outset. Alan is going to be talking about some of the principles behind delivering a high impact, memorable onboarding experience. I'm then going to pick up the mantle and talk about some of the common challenges that we encounter in membership organisations when they're trying to execute member onboarding campaigns. And then we're going to head over to a demonstration by Chris of some of the latest and greatest tools in the Microsoft CRM technology stack that can make high quality onboarding much easier and more effective for organisations today. Then, as I said, we'll finish off with the opportunity to answer any questions that have come in. So without further ado, Alan, may I come over to you to get the ball rolling on the principles of member onboarding?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jeremy. That's a great introduction. So good morning, everybody. Alan Reid. I've been working with membership organisations in particular and other not-for-profits since the late 90s. And one of the things that has definitely changed positively is the recognition of the importance of onboarding. I can remember working with all sorts of organizations really back in the early days when people were saying things like, oh, I wonder if we should have a website and so on. And then, oh, I wonder if the website should do anything. And back in those days, when a member joined, it was kind of taken for granted. They should be grateful that they're suddenly allowed access to our resources, but they weren't treated in any way differently from somebody who'd been a member for many years. So there's definitely been that recognition, and we're delighted to be talking about that. I'm very happy to be talking about furthering that recognition of the importance of onboarding and how it's evolved over the years and continues to evolve. So if we take a first look at what a good onboarding process looks like, I've taken this from my own experience, as well as working within the membership sector. I'm a little bit of a joiner, so I've joined various membership bodies over the years. This one is from my membership of the Royal Society of Arts, and I will say, spoiler alert, they did a very good job, and I renewed. But I have my anecdotal personal knowledge of what was the difference between renewing and not renewing. So what they did, I joined initially in January, is that they did a good job of allowing me to capture my initial interests and say what it is I wanted to be part of and what groups I was interested in, what my professional and personal interests were. And I got a good personalized seeming to me. And of course, because I work in the sector, I'm looking out for is this really personalized? Is it generic? Could it be sent to anyone? So I got what appeared to be a good personalized introduction and welcome to me. It seemed to pay attention to the things I'd said I was interested in. And then it also gave me an invitation to some relevant events that were coming up. And then invited me to refine my profile further, which I then did. And then I kept a little folder of everything they sent me. So in the next month, I got some more personalized e-shots with things that again seemed relevant and invitations to get involved in discussions or actually introductions to potential groups that I could get involved in. That's very much an RSA thing. But what I was also pleasantly surprised to get was a phone call. So it's very easy to get into a treadmill, a hamster wheel of, oh, the computer's going to send emails, or I'm going to send, include them in our weekly e-shot or whatever it is, and then give no more thought to it. But actually, I was pleased to get this phone call, particularly as somebody who works in the sector so much as I say. And this call was just to make sure I understood all of the benefits that were available to me as a member. I hadn't taken up many of those benefits yet. So was there any reason why? Was there anything blocking me from doing that? So I just had a kind of literally 4 or 5 minute conversation with this person before she moved on to phoning up the next person. But it was a very good intervention. I felt like they cared whether I got the benefits or not. And then I carried on getting personalized emails, personalized seeming invitations to relevant events. And then the following month, I got a further phone call from a different person, which was inviting me to a particular event that I would be interested in, given my profile, and asking, am I enjoying the benefits? What do I think of the content? Is the content, relevant and exciting, so that they can improve their content? And I like that. They asked me specifically, would I recommend membership to other people? And I said yes. So I thought the phone calls were very good. And then it carried on through the months of relevant and interesting content. Now, something you may or may not recognize from your own member onboarding journeys is that I actually didn't do anything with this membership until months after I joined. I didn't attend any events, webinars in my case, and I didn't read much of their content. But the thing that made that kind of not matter was because I knew it was there. They'd made every effort to make sure I knew it was there and that it was good quality. And if I wanted it, it would be interesting to read and it would add value to my career and add value to my personal development. So there isn't necessarily a huge alarm if people aren't taking you up on your offers. But what's really good, of course, is they must know it's there to take advantage of. I will say as well, as part of my personal experience of this, I had already decided by about the end of February, where I got the first phone call, that I was likely to renew. I didn't write it down anywhere or stick it in my diary to renew. I just thought, oh, this is good stuff. It seems to be worth the money, even though I haven't got time to take advantage of it right now. I'm probably going to renew with this. And then by the time I got my second phone call, I was happy to say, yes, I'm intending to renew my membership. It's working well for me, even though I haven't got time to do the events right now. So that initial experience in that initial weeks and months, a couple of months of the membership, was enough to determine that I would renew. And of course, if it had been negative, if it hadn't been a good experience, it would have 100% been enough to confirm that you're never going to see any more of my money. I am not going to renew. So the main point, I guess, from that is that that decision was made really early on, and it was made entirely based on the onboarding process. And if it's possible they could have changed my mind negatively or positively, but the chances of changing my mind positively after an initial poor impression, I guess we all know the answer to that. It takes an awful lot to recover from that. So, um, what um, what it's worth then talking about is what made it worthwhile, and on my multiple membership joining experiences, and of course we do research as well with members for organizations to work out what makes them renew and not renew. So what makes it work? So first of all, a really good initial impression of the organization. So lots of personalization, lots of relevant stuff. Second of all, then they kept it up. So they didn't just drop it off after the first few emails of welcome and here's our benefits and here's what you could be doing. They actually kept it up month on month. And then they showed me that they understood what I wanted and what I valued. So they made a big deal out of all of that. The phone calls, of course, were a big contributor to that. Proactive, responsive, and they really seem to have recognized that, if fixing the leaky bucket of people leaving after you've got them is a huge problem. So let's put a lot of effort into making sure that that doesn't happen. We spent a ton of money trying to get new members in. Let's keep that going so that they don't just all leave after the first year. Okay, so in practice, what they were then doing is making sure that that initial impression was valuable, was appealing. I could see the benefits in front of me. I kind of would have to try hard to ignore them if they're phoning up to tell me what value I'm getting. They then kept updating it and modifying it a little bit to say, okay, there's this other thing you might benefit from. There's this discussion group. We're writing a white paper. Do you want to be part of that? There are these other events that you could benefit from. And then they also carried on the conversation to say, would you be an advocate for us? Once I started giving positive signals that, yes, I can see your content is really good and you have some valuable activities, they were then asking, would you tell other people about that? Other people in your network that you think would benefit from those same resources. So why is this so important? And I'll just make a few remarks about this before I hand over to Jeremy. The first thing is I don't think you can overstate the simple reality of this. Whether someone is going to stay a member for the next 3 years or not, and certainly for that first year, that decision is made probably substantially within the first month, certainly within the first 3 months. So it's your chance. You've got them. It's your chance to make sure they stay, and it's also your chance to lose them. So you can't really overemphasize the importance of investing your time and energy into that initial engagement. It then, of course, sets that foundation. Once a positive impression has been created, it takes a reasonable amount of neglect to shift it. So you're setting that foundation for ongoing loyalty and satisfaction so that you've got them for a substantial period of time. And then, of course, you're starting that position where you've got the most valuable member of all, which is someone who's going to say nice things about you to other people like them, who will post on social media. If a student member is posting on social media, that we know from our research, that's worth 10 times what you could send out yourself personally as an organization. So it all adds to that positive reinforcement, that cycle of keeping that member and then growing that into other members as well. So that's where the state of member onboarding is, and those are the things that really matter. So Jeremy, if I could just before I hand over to you, I just want to make a point about the opportunity. You mentioned this at the top of the webinar. We're now at this point in time where membership bodies have known for years what they should be doing for onboarding and for proving member value, but they've just never had the resources to do it because it's incredibly time consuming. We're now at a moment where I'm working with organizations that are using AI, that are using automation to a much greater degree than ever before. And they're actually able to create the kind of onboarding processes for the first time that they've always wanted to do, but have just never been able to do. So it's a really exciting time. but it does mean the bar is getting higher and higher for what members are experiencing for other organizations they're dealing with. So associations now have this opportunity and challenge of making sure they take advantage of all of that for their own members. So great. Jeremy, if I could hand over to you at that point.
Thanks, Alan. I'm just going to call up my slides. Make sure that I'm on the right one. Sorry. Let me flick ahead. There we go. Um, Thanks, Alan. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just highlighting some of the challenges that we regularly encounter when working with our clients, all of whom are professional membership organisations, either engaging directly with individual members, such as the RSA example that Alan just chatted us through, or engaging with key member contacts within organisational memberships, such as trade associations or regulatory bodies. And I'm hoping that this will be a great segue for Chris, who's going to focus on how you can overcome some of these issues using a modern membership engagement system. So using the tools that Alan was just describing there. And the idea of that is to help you overcome challenges that so many membership organisations face when they're planning and executing their member onboarding activities. Now, look, virtually every organisation in the membership sector that I engage with wants to deliver a great onboarding experience. But what is the reality? Well, very often we hear that membership managers or membership management teams worry that their onboarding processes are too generic, they feel clunky, and they don't just hit the mark when it comes to delivering on the critical opportunity that a new member onboarding campaign presents, and which Alan has described to us this morning. And the consequence of that is that members then complain about confusing content, one size fits all benefits, disjointed service offerings, and very often that's because the membership teams running the processes are trying to make onboarding campaigns work with inadequate tools and not enough time. As I said, this is a pattern we see a lot at Smart Impact, the desire and the understanding of how important the onboarding period is, but the systems and support just aren't there to help them. And I think to illustrate this, and we think that this is a brilliant analogy, we're going to compare this with running a busy restaurant. So if you think about it, if you're running a restaurant, you've got people walking in all the time and at different times. And when they walk in, everybody wants something different and they want it now as quickly as possible. And when it works, when everyone's served quickly and gets exactly what they want to eat and drink, it's a joy. They come back, they tell others, there's loyalty and there's advocacy. But when it fails, they leave, maybe quietly, maybe posting a bad review on TripAdvisor or your restaurant's Google listing. But either way, they leave. And once they've left, they're very unlikely to return in the future. And in the membership world, the same thing can happen when members join an organization and onboarding doesn't meet their expectations. They will often never engage with you to their full potential. So onboarding is vital because you'll often only have that one opportunity to welcome the member appropriately, impress them with what you do, make them feel special, get them to come along to an event, engage with your content, or connect with other members, or just like in the restaurant, you run the risk of them never engaging properly with what you do, never buying or undertaking a service, and becoming a detractor. And in that scenario, just like in the restaurant, more often than not, they just quietly and simply slip away at the next renewal cycle. But sometimes, in the case of influential people, there's a risk of them publicly expressing their dissatisfaction and dissuading others from getting involved. And look, here's the core of it. Every member, just like every diner, is different. We're not just serving one type of person who arrives exactly on time at the same time. We've got students, qualification candidates, experienced professionals, people changing careers, people who were recommended to your organization, people who found you online. Virtually everyone will have a subtly different reason for joining. They'll come from different backgrounds, they'll have different levels of digital confidence. Some of them will be looking for urgent help in the here and now. Some will be expecting, in the example that Alan gave, to grow into engaging with you. And they'll all be joining at slightly different times and with slightly different expectations about how and when they like to be communicated with. In fact, sometimes it feels like the only thing that unites these folks is the fact that they've joined the organization and you have this one opportunity to engage with them and demonstrate your value to them. So this is what it feels like on the inside, right? To return to the restaurant analogy, you've got people walking in all the time. You're juggling a dozen different tables and hundreds of different orders and courses, and each of the plates you're spinning is spinning at a different speed. And you're trying to do it and are trying to do right by everyone, but there just isn't enough bandwidth, and the complexity can feel quite overwhelming. In other words, it can feel like you don't have enough chefs or waiters to do the quality job that you need and want to do. However, as Alan said, we believe this is where we've reached a real breakthrough moment in terms of modern engagement tools that are particularly relevant for organizations running these kinds of onboarding processes, and indeed the life cycle of communications that you need to undertake with members. Modern CRM systems supported with generative and natural language based AI tools, so tools like Microsoft Dynamics 365, Microsoft Copilot Studio, or ChatGPT, have the ability to give every member their own waiter and their own chef, someone who knows exactly what they want and delivers it perfectly just in time. And that really is no longer a fantasy. These tools exist, and this is exactly what's happening right now in the platforms that we're implementing for our clients, and which members have come to expect from the other digital services they engage with and utilize every day. So CRM automation makes it much easier and more intuitive to put in place complex onboarding journeys and to be responsive to how members are engaging with your campaigns and your content. Generative AI, large language models, can personalize the information you put into your campaign messages, responding to who the member is and why they've joined, without you having to write lots and lots of different messages on a one-to-one basis to get the same across. And websites and portals that understand who is visiting and why can personalize what's brought to a visitor's attention, signposting the right content, the right events, the right services to support those journeys. And indeed, Microsoft's been investing very heavily in journey orchestration. That's a set of tools that enable you to personalize how people engage with you online and through your communication campaigns over the last 18 months. And it's a particularly exciting enhancement to their CRM capabilities. But finally, and perhaps most importantly, and again drawing on the example that Alan described, taking advantage of these modern automation tools can free up your staff's time to focus on hyper engagement activities with new members, picking up the phone and engaging with them directly, finding out what help, what services they need, generating high quality, valuable content, or putting on events that really sparkle and capture folks' imaginations when they participate. And so this is what the future starts to look like. It's a future where every table, every member gets their own waiter and their own chef, meaning they're served promptly and personally. They get exactly what they want to eat and the sparkling service that's going to make them long-term happy returning customers. But the systems do the heavy lifting so that your team can finally get ahead of the game. And at Smart Impact, we're regularly building these kinds of onboarding processes with professional membership organizations using the CRM tools that I have described. So we think this is a very exciting time and exactly the right time to be thinking about how to implement this type of solution and this type of onboarding process. Before I hand over to Chris, I did say at the beginning that we're going to organise a couple of polls. So we'd like to hear from you. If you could let us know some of the challenges that your organisation currently experiences through your onboarding processes. Leave that up for another 10 seconds or so. Just let folks respond. Brilliant. So responses are coming in. And I'm I don't know if I'm heartened. That's probably not quite the right way to put it, but unsurprisingly to me, we seem to have a real spread of challenges. So some people are concerned about the generic benefits and not being able to personalize what people are able to see. Some folks are worried about the specific tools they have and whether or not they've actually got the resources within their team to meet everyone's needs. I think that's what we expected, that a lot of people would be encountering a lot of these challenges. And as I've said, utilizing modern tools should enable organizations to avoid a lot of this, personalizing and making much more specific what you're sending out, but also removing a lot of the heavy lifting by automating how people engage. So Chris, I'm about to come over to you. In the next section, we'd like to show you what this looks like in practice, and we're going to move over to a demo of how member onboarding could take place in a modern CRM platform. So not just improving efficiency, but making members feel valued, heard, and invested from day one. So, Chris, can I come over to you?
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much, Jeremy. So I'm going to take you through a couple of things this morning, and it's really about getting to the point where we can set off a journey of communication for an onboarding campaign. And I thought what I would do is I would start actually in the CRM on the data side of things, because if you think about that restaurant and you think of that idea of let's give everyone their personalized attention and their own personal waiter, we need to know who they are in order for us to actually do that. So if everyone's just a blank face, we can't really give them that personalized experience. So for me, it really all starts with the data. So if I go to Abigail, and this is a contact record within CRM, and we can start to have a look at some of the types of data that we can bring into a system. And it's really a compounding tool where the more data we bring in from disparate systems, the better our communication, the better our journeys can become. So if we look at Abigail at a very high level, we can see what sort of membership grade she's in. And we can see when she joined. This is obviously very important when it comes to a new onboarding journey. We can see things like, from a CBD perspective, what is her target for this period? How many CBD points has she earned thus far? We can see things like the events that she's attended, whether she registered but was a no-show, or did she actually attend those events? We can go over to finance and understand things around what kind of things has she been purchasing? Are there any outstanding amounts? And all of that kind of information is very pertinent to her membership. So this becomes very important for us, because as we start to trigger journeys and send them down a campaign, we want to adjust what we do based on what Abigail does. So if Abigail isn't earning CBD points in a period, we may want to prompt her along to introduce her to some of our learning materials. Or if after 6 months she hasn't attended an event, we may want to send her some personalized communication around joining events. So this is very much within the CRM area. It's looking at a contact record, and we'll probably come back to Abigail, but it is important to understand the kinds of data that we would like to have. And again, the more consolidated this is, so bringing in things from your portal, from your event management, from your finance, having that all in one place, which is really what we strive for and build regularly. The more we have, the more we can do with that. So if I now move over to customer insights journeys, this is the old marketing, well, I say old, it used to be called the marketing module within Dynamics. It's now customer insights journeys. And there's a couple of things that we can do. And really, to take you through an onboarding journey, we need to pull together three core things. We need the data, and we need to be able to work with that data. So it's no good just knowing, yes, they are a nurse membership or student membership. We need to be able to pull that into an audience and use it. We need to build out email content. The more personalized, the better. So if I'm a certain grade or if I'm in a certain area, I may want to see different things. And then we want to pull those things together into a journey so that we can actually send out those campaigns and automate that process. So again, I'm going to start on the data. And I'm going to go over to segments, which is where we build out our data and be able to manage that. So if I open our members in the Northeast region as an example, what we want to be able to do is essentially query data and pull that in. Actually, let me take out one that's a bit more basic to begin with. Let's go with our new members. So what we want to be able to do is query that data that we just saw within the CRM. So as we recall, on our contact record, we have things like our membership join date. And the membership, we have things like what membership grade are they, when did they join, when does it expire, etc. So over on our segment, again, we have this ability to pull all of this information in. And on our contact record, we can see all these different attributes down the right-hand side. All of these things we can pull into our segment and build our audience around that kind of thing. So I'm going to build a relatively, I would say too generic, but I want to build out a campaign that's going to focus on this segment, that's going to be communicating with our nurses. And what we can see is our membership join date is a relative date and it's today. So because this segment is what's known as a dynamic segment as opposed to a static segment, it means that as people join and meet the criteria to enter the segment, so they'll automatically be added in. And when they no longer meet that requirement, they'll be removed automatically. So it's not like I need to sit every day and run a report for everyone who joined today or who joined this week. It's automatically going to be able to add those people in and then remove them as necessary. Again, even on the membership grade, if they change their grade, they'll automatically be removed and then the new people will be added in as well. So segments is really the core aspect of our journey creation. I'm just going to set that as ready to use, and then we'll be able to use that within our journey in a couple of minutes. The next thing we're going to have a look at is how we actually build out the content for these mails. So I think that email content creation has gone through a lot of changes over the last year, 2 to 3 years, especially with generative AI coming more and more to the forefront. So things like ChatGPT, things like our smart AI tools that can help you build those email campaigns have really come to bear recently. But what we're going to do is we're going to just send out a very straightforward 4-email campaign, which is going to take people through their membership journey. So what we want to do is we want to send them a welcome email. So thank you for joining. We want to encourage them to visit the portal. If they haven't visited the portal after a certain amount of time, we're going to send them a reminder, and then we're going to send them some emails around their membership benefits. I'm not going to go through all of those emails just for time constraints, but if we have a look at the very first one. So what we want to be able to do is personalize this email as much as we can with what we know about this particular contact. So if we have a look at our email, the first thing you'll probably notice is we have this little yellow name in brackets. So this is a personalization. And one of the really strong things about customer insights is our ability to leverage CRM data within our email campaigns. So up in the top right-hand side, we're able to search for different fields, not only against the contact, but also against the things like your event records, your CPD activities, etc. And all of these things will then become dynamic content. So different people will see different things as they go through that. But what we also have the ability to do underneath our personalization option is we have the ability to introduce things like our inline conditions. So if I just pop this one open, what this gives us the ability to do is to create conditions that are going to display different pieces of information based on different criteria. So a very simple one that I put together is, again, based on those members in the Northeast region. So if you recall that segment that I built with all those people in it, we can then tailor the email content based on people in those different segments. So people in the Northeast region, we can display different wording, different images for those individuals, or we can build out things for different grades. Maybe we have a nurse, but we could have a student membership as well. And each of those different things can, or those different audiences can receive different types of email. So that's kind of based off your audience creation. You would also have the ability to do the same thing based off fields on the contact record or other records as well. So if they have an outstanding invoice, as an example, or if they haven't earned enough CPD within this period, we'd be able to pull those things in as a condition as well. So all of our email can really be tailored to meet the different expectations of the people who are receiving those emails. There are different schools of thought. Some would say maybe it's better to build out separate emails for each of those individuals. Some people want to create one and have that hyper dynamic based on who's going to be viewing it. It's really, there are pros and cons to those different approaches. But then if I move over to our journeys, I'm going to discard those changes. If I go over to our journeys, this is really where we start to pull those different things together. So we take our audiences, take our emails, and bring them together for the actual orchestration of those campaigns. So we have natural language processing that we can use, so we can explain the kind of journey we want in natural language. So create a 4-week welcome journey, type that in, and it would actually build that for us quite nicely. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build it from scratch, actually, just so that you can see how easy it is to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to base this journey off a segment. So again, if you remember, that segment is the audience that I built, and we can pull up any one of those audiences. I'm going to take our members in the Northeast region. Then you can see we have different frequencies of these journeys. So by default, it's set to a one-time journey with a static audience. So if you think of like a newsletter where we just want to send one email, that would be a good example of a static. But what we actually want for an onboarding journey is a one-time journey where newly added audience members can start at any time. And this starts to bring in that idea of the multiple tables around a restaurant that we want to have as people come in. Doesn't matter if you joined a month ago or joined today, you're going to go into that campaign. You don't need to wait for a period of time before we start again with onboarding processes for different people. We're going to set a start date, which we're just set for today, and then let's go and create that. So we're now within the journey builder, and this is all very drag and drop. We're going to be moving different components in, and we can see our journey starts with members in the Northeast region. So these are new members that have joined today in the Northeast region. What we can do is on the right-hand side, we can set a goal for this particular journey. So goals can be different things, like these can be more retail orientated, so do a purchase, attend an event, etc. But we're going to do onboarding new people. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a trigger, which is when people log into the portal, that will mean that our journey has been completed. And this is going to be useful for 2 reasons. One, for reporting purposes, we can see how many people have actually achieved the goal of our onboarding journey, but also we can choose to actually remove people from the journey once they've met the goal. So if our onboarding process is very much geared towards getting people to log into the portal because that's where they're going to access all their benefits, then we can make them exit once they reach that criteria, and then maybe send them on another journey, which would be onboarding phase 2, which is getting the most out of their portal, as an example. So we'll leave that there with our goal. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to send them an email, and that email is going to be our welcome email. So we're just going to send them email number 1, and there's our welcome email sitting there. And then we have a whole bunch of different options available to us in terms of what we do next in our conditions. So a very typical one would be a very basic wait time. So if we're going to have an onboarding journey that's going to go on for, let's say, 1 month, where we're going to be communicating with them once a week for a month, we're going to put in a wait condition, and we're going to say, what are they waiting for? This is going to be a specific amount of time. and we're going to make that 1 week. So you're going to receive the email, then after a week, we're going to send them email number 2 in our journey. But yeah, explore your portal. From here, we want to start paying a bit more attention to what people are doing with our email. So maybe we want to check if they've clicked on that button to access the portal. So from here, we can say, let's wait for a trigger. And that trigger is going to be based on that email 2. And we're looking for particular interactions. So we're looking for them clicking on a link, which would be that button. And then we're going to wait, let's say, 2 days after the email that we've sent them, we would have expected them to open that. So if they have clicked on that link, then we can carry on and we can just send them the next email that we want, which would be email 4. But let's say that they didn't actually click on that email. We probably want to send them our reminder email, right? So we want to send them our email 3, just a quick reminder. But for us, it's really important that they access that portal. We want them to start getting the benefit. So we're actually going to be a bit more persistent with them about accessing the portal. So what we can do is we can set up a series of emails that actually sits within that nest or within that branch. And what we can do, I won't add all the emails just for time, but we can send them a series of emails, and we can allow them to stay in this sequence until they have reached that trigger, which is accessing the portal. But maybe they go through all of those emails and they don't actually access the portal. That's not good. So the conditions are not met. So we actually want to get a human involved. Very much like Alan was saying, what was quite meaningful for him was when he actually received that phone call. So we can create a phone call task or just a normal task, and we can assign that to, I'm going to give that one to the contact owner or even a specific user. I can send that over to Jeremy, and I'm just going to call that one follow up. So we can create a task that will then arrive within CRM for Jeremy to pick that email up. Or that member up and have a phone call with them about that. As we start to move down through the various conditions we have, once they've accessed the portal, we then have a couple of choices. Maybe we want to make them exit and enter a new journey where we're going to be engaging with them about what they do within the portal. But just for today's demonstration, I'm just going to keep running through our journey and do a couple of other things that we want. So we may want to do an attribute split. So what we can do here is have a look at different conditions. So we can say things like, have they received any CPD yet? Or is their membership more than a week old? And we can hold them in a kind of a holding pattern until one of those attributes are met. So even real time, we built out our audience, but now during the journey, we can reassess whether that is still true. Maybe during this time they stopped the nurse and or maybe they stopped their student and they upgraded midway through the journey. We don't want to continue sending them their student communication. We want to do an attribute split so we can send them different things down that journey. We'll just pop in an email just so that we have some stuff that's sitting there. Let's pop another email over there. What we can also do is we can do our channel optimization. So if we have things like push notifications that's going to deliver things to a mobile application or even to our portal, or we have things like text messages and emails, which obviously come out the box, we can set the AI to do optimization based on how they are interacting. So for each of these communication points, we can set both an email and a text message to go out. And if they stop engaging with our emails but engaging more with text, we can dynamically change that over to text messages going forward, which also really streamlines that process quite nicely. And then once they've reached that goal of either accessing the portal or any other goals that we're driving, we can then remove them out of this journey and send them on. And as we can see, this is quite a comprehensive journey that we built out in only a few minutes. It's really intuitive. The drag and drop and point and click works really, really nicely as well. I'm going to leave it there for time. And Alan, I'm going to hand it back over to you. You're on mute, Alan.
You kind of got to be on mute for this stuff. Thanks so much for that, Chris.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to see how quickly you got to the to the different parts of the of the user journey. So what I'll do is I'll just share the slide deck again. And if I may, I'd just like people to engage with a second poll. So the question is, which of the following outcomes is your membership organization targeting from its onboarding experience in future? So what are the changes? What are the things that you really want out of your onboarding? So Chris, if you don't mind, if you put up that poll, please, and we'll just get the responses to that. We'll just give people kind of 15 seconds to respond to the poll. Okay. Okay, and then just give it a couple of seconds. So what we're seeing is actually a spread across all of that. Fewer first-year cancellations is a big deal for people. It is really common to lose a big chunk of your new members after the first year, which is obviously disastrous in terms of the money that you're spending. And then higher onboarding satisfaction. There's a significant minority want more advocacy and referrals, and all of our research shows that the most impactful thing a member can do for you is that advocacy and referrals, getting your members involved for everything from creating their own content or just liking and repeating your content. Okay, great, thank you. So we've had some really excellent Q&A questions coming in. So if I can just ask people for those. So I'm just going to fire these questions at you, Jeremy and Chris, if that's okay. So and some of the questions are a little bit challenging. People are looking for direct information these days. So first of all, let's start off with. Do I have to change my CRM or website to use AI tools? And Jeremy, do you mind if I just ask you that question, please?
Yeah, by all means, Alan. So, look, I think there's sort of two ways that you can look at this. So, on the one hand, no, because there are AI tools that are, available to use almost as SaaS-based offerings. So something like ChatGPT is a great example. ChatGPT enables you to do a huge amount of personalization, content generation, AI infused communications that you can just switch on by getting a ChatGPT account. We definitely recommend a paid for ChatGPT account. We wouldn't recommend just using publicly available tools without having the additional security that you get from putting your data and your conversations in a paid for environment. And actually Smart Impact has got a suite of tools, we call them smart AIs, which are effectively bots that you can deploy in ChatGPT to support a range of different processes, from generating communications, better communications around meetings, managing note-taking, managing follow-ups, managing a whole suite of activities that membership organizations do. However, to really get the most out of AI tools, you need to work out a way to infuse AI tools with your data, because what makes AI tools really, really effective is using your data. And data comes in lots of different formats. It could be traditional CRM style data, like the data that Chris was showing, could be your documents, document repositories, things like SharePoint, can even be graph data, the sort of day-to-day data that you are using in emails, communications through Teams, etc., to really enrich the information that AI tools have available to them to do useful jobs for you. And to do that, you probably do need a modern platform that is investing in application AI tools. So Dynamics 365 is a great example. What Chris has shown us this morning is a system with lots and lots of automation and AI tools built into it that has your CRM data just available to it, also has your website data if you're using an integrated portal. And by having all of that data and those AI tools in the same place, then you can really get the most out of the potential that AI has to offer.
I think I took from that, Jeremy, that the answer to do I need to change my CRM and website to use AI tools is no. You can add AI tools on without changing those things, but a more modern platform will allow you to go further, maybe allow you to do it more easily. So just carrying on with that, so people are asking for specifics. So maybe if I could just ask you to be kind of concrete in your answer. If somebody just wants to add AI onto what they've got at the moment, the question here is, what are the steps required to get going with adding AI to how we work? And then somebody else has asked, how many weeks or months does it take? So people are interested in quite specific information on that, if you would, please.
So, I mean, getting started with a tool like ChatGPT, you can do immediately. As I say, we highly recommend that if you're using something like that, you buy a paid for account and then start to look into how you can use tools in ChatGPT to help you with personalization. If you want to go down the route of looking at some of our smart AI tools, we have a 3-month onboarding process that we undertake with customers to support that. And effectively, during that 3-month period, we will provide some consultancy to you around using specific AI tools in ChatGPT that are useful and specific to your organization, but also tailoring some of those so that they do specific jobs that are particularly relevant to you. So I would say, you can get started immediately, but to start using AI properly, you need to factor in a few months of preparation so that you know what you're doing with the tools.
Fantastic, thank you. And then, Chris, could I ask you a question? We've had a Q&A come in, which is, isn't there, and this is an interesting one, isn't there the risk that using automation tools for onboarding actually increases the risk of generic services to members? I mean, we've all had the worst thing of all, which is Dear Forename. Everyone's received that at some point in their life. But if you're putting rule-based processes around this stuff, aren't you at risk of doing what you actually aim to avoid, which is ending up being more generic? How do you combat that?
So I think the answer there is really where I started on the demo. It's all about the data, so I know we talk about the tools a lot, so our ability and how easy it is to do the automation and things like that. But ultimately, it boils down to the types of data that you're capturing and how well you understand your data. I think that's the first step. The second step also is about understanding the nuances of your own members as well. So yes, we can set up those journeys, but again, if you think about the journey that I put together, where let's say you have an onboarding processes for new students, we need to be aware of the fact that they might change their membership or upgrade their membership midway to a different type, and we want to be able to be aware of that and allow the tools to automatically adapt to those changes. So I personally don't really feel that unless you, and I don't want to be disparaging, but unless you're being lazy about the way you set up your automation so that it's just everyone going into the same funnel, receiving the same things, I think that by leveraging the data and understanding the data, you should be able to very easily move away from generic content towards a more tailored approach to onboarding.
So, and in effect, you should be able to get away from that pre-automation, pre-AI thing where everyone's getting the same thing just because they are. That's all you've got the resource to send. You've only got the resource to send one e-shot a week, and everyone has to get the same. But there's that process of spending. I can imagine the user journey flow that you set up there could end up being quite involved and could end up taking quite some time to set up. It's not the drag and drop element; it's the thinking about it element that would take the most of the time. Is that your experience when working with clients, that they do have to spend quite a lot of time thinking about the personalization and what they want to personalize before they then tell the stupid computer, this is how we want you to do it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that's part of what we do in Discovery, is part of what we do from a consultancy point of view, is to work with organizations to understand and map that out themselves. But it is all about front loading the effort. So by creating all of that, because it's not just the mapping out and the thinking about it, it's creating all that content, building out those audiences. So it's front loading the effort, but it's really, it pays the dividends over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once you've got all of that set up, I guess, so then three people join the same day kind of thing. They're all entirely different profiles of members, but they'll all be treated very personally because of all of that front loading of effort. Well, that makes sense. Jeremy, we've got a challenging question for you, if you don't mind. So this person's obviously been burnt or is a skeptic, and completely realistically, everyone's talking about AI, but no one's doing it yet. Are any of your clients live with AI tools as part of managing the member experience, or is it all in quotes in the future?
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting that it's framed in that way around no one's doing it yet. Actually, most people are using some sort of AI tools in their lives. Maybe they don't even know that they're doing it. But you know what we see increasingly within membership organizations who haven't, as a organization, invested in some sort of formal AI program, you've got lots and lots of staff using it informally. So going on to unpaid ChatGPT or unpaid Microsoft Copilot and just plugging stuff into that system. We think that that's pretty dangerous, because firstly, one of the sort of quid pro quos of a free AI application is that it trains on the data it's given, so you don't have the sort of safeguards that you really need. In terms of customers actually using AI tools, I mean, absolutely, we've got several. Most of our customers are using some of the tools that Chris showed this morning, and we've got a growing number of customers who are engaging with our smart AI tools and actually building their own customized AI bots in ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot Studio. So actually, we're seeing adoption pretty rapidly. I mean, one real success story for us is the Fire Industries Association, who I think were very early adopters in terms of the potential of AI. They saw several years ago that it was really a massive opportunity, and worked with us over about 2 years to really deliver a lot of AI tools, and they've seen phenomenal returns. I think they estimate that they've had something like a £1,200 ROI on the system. So for every pound they've invested in AI, they're getting 1,200 back. So it's pretty impressive.
Right, that is impressive. Okay, great. And when you start using terms like they've been doing it for a couple of years, it does put it into focus, because this did start coming into availability around 2022. It's just that so there has been time for adoption. Great, thank you very much. We're just coming to the end. So Jeremy, I think it's just over to you to comment on what you're offering to your clients in terms of what's on your website, if you don't mind.
Thanks very much, Alan. So look, firstly, a huge thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. We hope that it's been a useful session. And if you'd like to follow up with us on anything that we have been through this morning, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Obviously, a large focus of what we were talking about this morning was AI, and we have got several resources available on our website, some videos, some sort of documents that you can download. And if you use the QR code on the screen there, that will take you straight through to the AI section of our website. We also would like to signpost some future events. Alan, if you could change to the next slide for me. So we run oh, actually, sorry, I beg your pardon. So we're also running an AI working group. So this is a group of managers within professional membership organizations who are looking to implement or are implementing AI tools in their organization. And if you're interested in joining us for one of these sessions, you're more than welcome. We do the sessions in person in our offices in London, but we've also got people now joining us by Teams as well. If you email Steve, whose address is on the screen there, you would be very welcome to join. And then finally, Alan, if you could go to the last slide, we run regular events every month, normally the first Tuesday of the month, like today, on a range of different topics for membership organisations. I think in May we're looking at the evolution of member communications, so different channels that are going to be utilised by organisations moving forward. So it would be great to see you there. So thank you very, very much for joining. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Alan, for your participation, and hopefully catch everyone soon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Okay.